It's one of the most joyous days of the year. No, it's not the beginning of fall camp. Well, actually, it technically is the beginning of fall camp, but it's what comes with the beginning of fall camp. And that's our roster update. We're going to overanalyze everything. We got all kinds of weight gains, weight losses, all of that stuff. Let's talk about it all on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Thursday. We're back and doing a Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group, and we got all kinds of info to go through. We can overanalyze everything. We can try to figure out what things mean and all of this stuff. We can look at trends because the roster's been updated, and with the roster, we've got not only official numbers, all the freshman numbers, we've also got all kinds of other stuff like weight gains, weight losses, all kinds of stuff. So I can't wait to get into this with you. So I had my article pulled up and I decided I'm going to go to my spreadsheet because that has everything. So it's just a matter of sorting and all that kind of stuff. Because yes, we do spreadsheet this out. Okay, we have our trusty spreadsheet here. We're going to go ahead and sort everybody and kind of get into some stuff. So let's look at who has gained the most weight. That is to me some of the most fun. Oh man, this isn't as good as my other one. Let's see. Look at it, column J. That's just annoying. Normally it has this all worked out a little bit better. Okay, so who's gained the most weight? There's been some really impressive weight gains for some freshmen in particular. We'll get to them in a minute, but considering you can sit there and you can look at who's got what from their listing on like 24/7 Sports or on 3 compared to where they're listed on the roster. One player gained a ton. We'll get actually 3 players gained a ton from the freshmen. But from those existing, the linemen are bulking up like you wouldn't believe, as well as even there's a running back that did, and there's a couple others. But I think that the big weight gains, you started at 10, and out of all of those, that there's like, let's see, 116 to 138 is where we're looking at here. That's a pretty huge number of people in this list who have gained weight, but you're looking at all these are linemen, 10 pounds or more. Let's actually make it 9 pounds just because we've got a couple here, or 8 pounds. Owen Wafel, freshman. Jake Warnera, freshman. Chibi Anwana, who's a walk-on. Blake Frazier, freshman. Dominic Nichols, freshman. Like I told you, there's a lot of freshmen here. Eno Etta, that's not surprising that he moves up a bit. Michael Pollard's not a lineman, but I mean, he could definitely be a Sam linebacker, outside linebacker, edge rusher type. He's up a lot. Devin Baxter, freshman. Trey Pierce in his second year. Huge. Manuel Beagle, freshman. Andrew Sprague, freshman. Brooks Barr, who has arms the size of my legs, second year. Evan Link, second year. Nathan Afobe, second year. And then 3 freshmen. Ted Hammond, Luke Hamilton, David Pale. So the biggest gainer out of anybody is David Pale. Because he was listed on 24/7 Sports as weighing 305 pounds. He comes in at a massive 335. 335. Just to do a quick perusal, I do believe that is the biggest number on the team as of right now. Because I think 342 or 332 is where Miles Hinton is. Miles Hinton only gained 2 pounds, but he's transformed his body, so that's going to be kind of exciting to see. But Miles Hinton, okay, he's 342, so he's still the biggest. But 335, David Pale. Luke Hamilton's up 25 pounds to 315. Ted Hammond, the defensive lineman freshman, is up 24 pounds. But you always get better from year 1 to year 2, right? That's a maxim that we live by on this program. And you're seeing a lot of these second years guys. Like I said, Nathan Afobe, Evan Link, Brooks Barr, all of them up 21 or 22 pounds. Afobe's 22, the other 2 are 21. So they are bulking up. They're getting ready for the show. Trey Pierce, a guy that I thought really was going to have an opportunity last year. I'm excited to see what he does this year. He's not getting talked about enough, but he could be that guy where, you looked at Kenneth Grant last year and you said, all right, I see what you're doing. Trey Pierce could be that guy this year. So he's up 15 pounds. Eno Etta, we know he's also going to be that in that kind of, he's got the hype that goes along with the Kenneth Grant type. He can play on the edge, he can play inside because he's going to be playing a little bit more inside. He is up 13 pounds to 308. So that is very exciting. Some others that gained weight that I thought were notable. Kendrick Bell, he's the wide receiver that I am all over, right? I called him your inflection player for the year. He went up, now that he's not a quarterback like he was in year one. Year two, he's a wide receiver. He is up to 191, so he's putting on the muscle. That's what you need to see. Cole Sullivan, early enrollee freshman linebacker, who very well will see quite a bit of playing time this year, kind of in the same vein as Jimmy Rolder 2 years ago. He's up to 225. And then Dominic Nichols is an edge rusher, a freshman who was an early enrollee, who certainly is going to get an opportunity this year as well. He is up 10 pounds to 261 as an edge rusher. So there is a lot to like about the weight gains, right? Assuming it's all good weight, which it probably is. I forgot to mention the Jordan Marshall, freshman running back, that is certainly going to see some time this year. I would bank that he's going to break his red shirt and burn his red shirt. He's up to 210. He's up 17 pounds compared to where he was listed on 24/7 Sports. So that is big as well. So the guys that you wanted to see to gain weight did. So that is huge for this group. And I think, again, seeing the correlation of both the freshmen as well as the second-year players. Because remember, you saw some big changes from some guys in year one. Like Kenneth Grant was like 428 pounds, right? And it was like, whoa, this dude's huge. I exaggerate, of course. But obviously, he was really high up the chain there. But you look at like a guy like him. You look at some of these others. And then you see the next year, they maybe slimmed down a little bit. And I think that's kind of where you see it with a lot of these freshmen, is you're probably going to see a little bit of that, right? Like, I don't know that David Palipali is going to stay 335, but it all depends on how he moves, right? But at the same time, it makes sense that a guy like Eno Etta would really jump up. The year two guys, seeing them put on the weight, that means it's go time for some of these guys. And especially since you heard Kirk Campbell say earlier in the year that the offensive linemen, they've got 7, they need 8 or 9. That's where a guy like Evan Link, hey man, you're the size now. You look like an NFL caliber from a physical standpoint, according to your weight size. So it's time, right? Like, you might not be starting, but behind the scenes, you can really make a big difference. Let's talk about some of the weight losses, because those aren't as much. And then I had a couple other observations that were interesting. So let's get to all of that here in just a moment. But before we do, listen, I'm going to a concert tonight. And if you want to join me at that concert, which is Brandon Lake, Phil Wickham, Hovey is opening. That's exciting. I know a lot of you don't know who that is. Those are Christian artists. Or you could go down to the ballpark, catch a Major League Baseball game. The best way to do either of those things is through Gametime. Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. So many favorite things that they have, but today I'll tell you a little bit about the last-minute deals. You can save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, comedy, theater, all of that. So if you want to join me at Brandon Lake down at Little Caesars Arena, say hi to Sarah and I, well, guess what? You can go and you can find those floor seats last minute on Gametime. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, use that code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, let's continue on. I'm just trying to fix this here because that's why. I realized why I couldn't see my I couldn't see my headers because I didn't have everything selected here. All right, so players that lost the most weight. One freshman lost a ton. That's Ben Roebuck, offensive lineman. He's down 15 pounds from where he was listed. So he went from 320 to 305. But again, you're looking at a couple linemen, but mostly you're looking at some others that are just kind of, you look at some defensive backs and tight ends and stuff like that. One interesting observation is the tight ends are all ranging from 235 to like 252. So they are definitely in that span. The biggest loser in a good way this year was Alessandro Lorenzetti. He originally had committed 2 years ago as an offensive lineman. He is now a defensive lineman from Canada, I believe, and then he played in Connecticut, I think is how that went. He was 301 pounds last year as well as in the spring. I came to campus at 289. He's back down to 285. So you look at him, maybe they use him as a little bit more agile, right? They're looking for a lot more agility. Deacon Tonielli, tight end, he's definitely going to see some time this year. He's 6'5". He came to school at 251. He's down 13 pounds for year 2 to 238. Cameron Brandt, who is an edge rusher, defensive lineman, probably more edge rusher. I don't know if I changed. I haven't listed his DL. I'm not sure if he's edge on the roster, and I just didn't change it. But he is down from 277 to 265. Jacob Oden, the freshman defensive back early enrollee, is down 10 pounds from 206 to 196. Jeff Percy, who's probably one of those 7 that is currently in there, is down 10 pounds from 320 to 310. He's 6'8", by the way. He's tied for the tallest on the team. I believe Andrew Sprague is the other one. And then you've got William Wagner, long snapper, lost 10. Amongst others that lost some weight here, Giovanni El-Hadi is down to 310. He lost 8 pounds. Jaden McBurrows is down 6 pounds from 200 to 194. You'll see him a bit in the rotation at slot corner. Kalel Mullings, the bowling ball, he was 232 2 years ago. He went up to 239 last year. He's back down to 233. So he said in the Trenches podcast that he wants to make more house calls this year. So wants to be a wrecking ball, but he also wants to make house calls. Micah Capana, the freshman running back, is down 5 pounds to 190. And those are the big things. But normally you see a lot more, a lot bigger of a group to make these changes, right? I feel like often you see like 30 guys gained a bunch, 40 guys lost a bunch, something like that. Here you're looking at 7 guys that lost 10 pounds or more, and otherwise we're looking at I would say about 20 that gained, maybe 25 that gained. So, and a lot of them are freshmen, of course. So I think that is I think that tells you that things are still kind of the same, right? They're the guys who have already been around for a couple years, they're still on that Ben Herbert track, right? And that was one of the things that came out of Big Ten Media Days is that, I don't know if we talked about that. Sharon Moore talked about Justin Tress and how when Ben Herbert came to town recently, he came in, he watched the guys and said, you know what, this looks exactly the same. So I think that you're seeing most of these big gains and losses from the younger guys because the older guys have already kind of got their bodies right. So now you're seeing kind of a match there. So that is very, very good. So the next thing that I want to look at is I want to look at some player numbers. I know that's not like a crazy amazing thing, but now we know who you're going to be able to root for, all that kind of stuff. All right, I'm just trying to figure out how to sort this correctly. So, all right. So we got all the freshmen. There were only a couple walk-ons. There were 2 freshman walk-ons. There was 1 incoming transfer. He's a sophomore. He played at Holy Cross. He's a long snapper. So that was it. But we already knew some of the numbers of the freshmen. Some of them changed. There's a better way to do this than how I just did it. All right, wait. Column. This isn't going great. All right, let me just do this over. I could have done this in a much smarter way than I did. Number, there we go, and then player. Okay, perfect. So of the freshmen that you have, you already knew Jaden Davis was 2, Jacob Oden's 5. Now we get to some new ones. Shannon Goodwin's 14, Josiah Edmonds 16, Jordan Marshall 23. Cole Sullivan actually moved from 18 to 23. Mason Curtis and Micah Capana both wearing 25. Jeremiah Lowe, the cornerback from Kentucky, 32. Dominic Nichols, edge rusher, is 33. Thomas Amir is a walk-on wide receiver. He's 36. Zach Ludwig, the nephew of Ben Herbert's 43. Now we get into some linemen, offensive and defensive. Luke Hamilton, 50. Jake Guarnera, 53. David Pale and Andrew Sprague, both wearing 54. Ben Roebuck, 73. Manuel Beagle, 76. He is the foreign-born defensive lineman from Brandon Collier's PPI recruits. So always excited to see what those guys do. Blake Frazier is wearing 77, so you got big hopes for him, right? He's wearing the iconic offensive line number. Hogan Hansen changed his number from 81 to 80. Devin Baxter is 82, as is Amarian Stewart. Ted Hammond is 85. Drew Hickmott is also a walk-on. He's 85. Brady Priestcorn changed his number from 22 to or whatever it was to 86. Lugard Edakpai is 88, and Owen Wafel, who is the flip from Notre Dame that we know can pancake some dudes, is 99. There were a couple other changes. I have to go to my column here to be able to see exactly what those are. A couple guys did change their numbers as well, and there were a couple position switches. So Samaj Morgan's now wearing 0, out of 17. And those are the important established players. The rest we've already kind of covered. And then as far as position switches, not a whole lot, but Joe Taylor, who has been mentioned a lot as a return man. He was a defensive back last year. He's now a wide receiver. Nico Andrighetto, younger brother of Lucas Andrighetto. He was a running back just like his brother. Now he's a defensive back. Mason Curtis, who had been recruited as a linebacker, thought of him as a linebacker. He's 6'4". He's listed as a defensive back. So it'll be interesting to see. And then Peter Simmons, a preferred walk-on, who was a offensive lineman and is now a defensive lineman. So that is the bulk of it. So how much does any of this matter? Let's wrap it up. Let's talk about that here in just a moment. But before we do, passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle, level it up to peak performance, superchargers, roof racks, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, so now we're done with the jump to conclusions, Matt. That's 100% what we were doing with that. I know it's just a fun exercise to kind of glean some things. My biggest takeaway is that the freshmen have made some big changes, whether it was once they got to campus or before. Remember, guys show up a lot earlier. It used to be kind of like mid-July, and now some of them start showing up in May if they're not early enrollees. So guys have really transformed their bodies, the younger guys, and you might see more that are kind of ready to play. I noticed that there was a lot of movement with the running backs up and down. Donovan Edwards said at Big Ten Media Days he was 215. He wanted to be 212 by the time the season came. He's 212 on the roster right now. So he was 210 last year, so that's not a giant difference. But he wanted to make sure that he is more equipped to be, as he said, durable, to be able to really take any kind of punishment that he might get in the trenches. So there's that. But I think when you see the first and second year players, I think having big changes, particularly the second year players, that's what excites me a lot, because when I look at I have everything sorted by year still. I look at 2023, the all of the players that are in that, there are very few zeros listed. So looking at 2023, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4 guys who didn't change anything, right? So, you know, you look at like Samaj Morgan's down 2 pounds. You're kind of like, dude, really? You lost weight? You don't need to lose weight, but maybe he does. Maybe he's faster. I don't know. But I mean, and we talked about all these guys that had really big changes. But even just seeing a guy like Breon Ishmael just losing a couple pounds to get down to 260 as an edge rusher. You see a guy like I just saw his name. Where is it? A guy like Jair Hill, who's up 4. He's going to probably start at cornerback. He's up 4 pounds. Cole Cabana's up 6. You hope that maybe that makes him more durable. Some guys didn't really need to change much, right? Benjamin Hall's only up 1 pound up to 235. Frederick Moore's only up 1 pound to 181. Brandon Hillman's one of the ones that didn't change anything. And then a couple two kickers didn't change anything, and a long snapper didn't change anything. Okay. So otherwise, everyone's really kind of made a bit of a difference from where they were last year in year 2. I've mentioned almost everyone that's going to be of consequence having had some kind of change. That's big because year 2 is when you start to see guys like a Kenneth Grant or even a Mason Graham. Like, yeah, we saw Mason Graham in year 1, but it was year 2 last year that he really started to come alive, right? You saw the same thing with Colston Loveland. Colston Loveland came alive at the end of his freshman year. Like, he wasn't really spoken of much throughout the regular season until you got down to the end of the season. I think it was the Illinois game. He had a big catch, and then obviously the touchdown against Ohio State, the touchdown against Purdue in the Big Ten championship game. So when you see guys make that big push from year 1 to year 2, and you see that with some of these guys, I mean, if we're to look at that 2022 class, I would venture to say you're probably seeing those changes. Will Johnson went up 8 pounds, for instance. You look at, let's see, the guys that I just mentioned. I mean, Mason Graham didn't gain a lot. He only gained 1 pound, and now he's up 2 more. So he's only up 3 total pounds. But Kenneth Grant went from 356 to 339. He stayed the same this offseason, but you saw how he played, right? And I think it makes a difference when you have guys that kind of go through that from their freshman year to their sophomore year, they make those body changes, and then you expect production from them from there on in. And I think that's a pretty cool and big thing. Also, just consistency across the board at certain position groups. Like I mentioned, the tight ends are all kind of in about a 13 to 15 pound radius, right? Everyone's going to be, kind of a carbon copy of each other to some degree, all being around 6'4" to 6'6" in height. So I think that bodes really well, right? Just to see a guy like Marlon Klein, like he bulked up a little bit, but now he's down to 247, which is 2 pounds heavier than he was in his playing days. You got to keep in mind that body composition changes, right? It's kind of like I mentioned Miles Hinton. He looked markedly different when we saw him in spring. And yet he is about the same size. So either they are changing the composition of the body and they're losing the fat and adding muscle, or we're seeing them in the spring and then they're just going to McDonald's every meal. I don't know. It could be either way. That's what the fun of this is. And obviously we've seen how serious the strength and conditioning program is for Michigan, you can pretty much guess that it's probably the body composition changes. So we just spent an entire show over analyzing a bunch of numbers, looking at a spreadsheet. That's where we're at. All right, we'll get back to current events and all of that on Friday, as Michigan is still in fall camp. No media availability today. If you do go to the Brandon Lake and Phil Wickham concert tonight at Little Caesars Arena, say hi to Sarah and I. Anyway, that'll do it for today's episode. Thanks for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again soon. Peace.